One of the features I was most excited about in the 1.0 release of last Epoch was the trading factions feature. I was curious to see how this innovative new system would work, given that loot-driven ARPGs have always had a rocky relationship with player-to-player trade in the past. EHG tried their hand at something new, and no matter how it turned out in practice, I support their attempts at doing something a lot of ARPGs shy away from altogether. So how did it turn out? Well, the Circle of Fortune is great. The Merchants Guild, the actual player-to-player trade system, in my opinion, has some kinks to work out to make it viable as a form of progression. But with some tweaks to it, I think they have potentially a great system that will change how we think of ARPG auction houses for many years to come. So really quick, before I get into what I think needs some fixing, let me recap what the Merchants Guild is. When you hit Act 9 and get to Majelka with Zarek in the Divine Era, you'll be given a choice between the Circle of Fortune, the Self-Found mode, or the Merchants Guild, the player-to-player trade mode. Once you join the Merchants Guild, you are immediately able to sell any items you wish, but in order to buy items, you need to prove yourself to the Merchants Guild by gaining reputation and rising through the ranks of the guild. There are 10 ranks, and each rank unlocks a new type of item that you can purchase. Earning reputation is fairly simple. All you need to do is kill monsters and complete quests. You also earn a bit of reputation when you engage with the trade system itself, buying and selling items. To buy something, you go to the vendor for the base item type of what you're looking for, and you search for it. You spend favor, which is a currency that you gain alongside reputation, and gold for items. To sell, you go to any vendor, click on List an Item, input the item you want to sell, and an asking price. Click List Item, and you are good to go. And that's really all there is to it. So now, a couple of issues that I have with all of this. My number one issue with the system that I think is fundamental to making the Merchants Guild work is that the rank system takes a bit too long to go through. The only way to gain experience for the Merchants Guild is to buy and sell things and kill monsters. You gain some from completing quests, but once you're out of the campaign and into monos, those become practically non-existent. Also, by the time you're in monoliths and hitting empowered monos, you are basically in need of really good exalts and specific uniques with legendary potential and such. You don't have the ability to buy exalted weapons until reputation level 5, which at that point you already have put in the time to grind past most monos. You don't have the ability to buy anything with legendary potential until level 7, which is well past the point most people have hit monos, and some will even have hit empowered monos. The main problem that it causes is that it stilts the economy. In theory, this works great because you want people to engage with the game and have a little bit of friction in the purchasing experience, or everyone would just outright buy everything. But if you put in too much friction, too much time investment, and tie that to your ability to purchase anything, what you're doing is heavily reducing the amount of people willing or able to buy things. And if your pool of potential customers is extremely low, your pool of sellers will start to get extremely low as well. The cost of items drops significantly, and eventually you have a non-functioning economy. This is just supply and demand. It happens in the real world as well. Businesses will fail or their growth will be heavily inhibited if they have too many barriers for customers to enjoy their product, or if societal or environmental factors start making it difficult for their customers to engage with their system. Think about things like VR gaming, where even though it definitely has a place in the gaming industry, there isn't much of a demand for it because of the price and equipment you need in order to actually play with it. You need a headset, controllers, a high-powered computer that can run VR games. You need the sensors and a big enough empty floor that you can play VR games without hitting walls or your computer or anything. You also need to stand up while playing video games, which is something most people won't want to do, at least not for extended periods of time. The point here is that, like VR, the customer pool of the Merchants Guild is limited by the customer's willingness and ability to engage with the system. If no one is willing to grind out all this XP to buy the items they needed 10 levels ago, then sellers won't be willing to spend the time to travel to the bazaar, price check their item, and list the item for sale. They'll just vendor it and go to the Circle of Fortune. I think a way that I would solve this is to give alternative forms of earning reputation. I like a bit of grind, but if I only have one way to gain reputation and it's extremely slow, then I'll burn out so much quicker and just stop caring about the system, especially if I could just switch over to the Circle of Fortune and get more immediate benefits there. Give us some quests to complete, monster bounties, or find this amount of this item and trade them to me, or go fight Lagon and ask him to give you the Jewel of the Sea, something like that, or even something as simple as giving noticeable reputation boosts for killing dungeon bosses and the reward scales with the difficulty of the boss, or something to that effect. We don't necessarily need to get rid of the grind, just make it so the grind can be done fast enough that it keeps up with your level, and make it so the grind is fun and rewarding to complete even at lower reputation levels. Another slight problem I have with the Merchants Guild, and something I think prevents sellers from selling and buyers from having any respect for the market, is that Merchants Guild players are rewarded with reputation just for listing items for sale. The item doesn't actually have to be bought. It just has to be listed, which means most people would just list all their items for sale at 0 gold and take the reputation bonus it gives them. This is obviously only made worse because of the heavy grind players need to overcome to be able to buy items. And I don't think that the whole solution is just to give the reputation reward at the time someone buys your item, because again, that will just incentivize people to price the item at 0 gold and hope someone picks it up for free. Personally, I think that incentivizing players for selling using flat reputation rewards is not a good system. If you want to give a reward for selling something, I think that maybe you should scale the reputation reward with how much gold you make off the purchase. So for example, if I sell an item to someone for 1,000 gold, I'll get 1,000 reputation. But if I sell an item to someone for 10,000 gold, I will get 10,000 reputation. And you only get this reward if you make the sale. Obviously this needs to be balanced, but you get what I mean. In my mind, this will incentivize sellers to sell for higher amounts, but also incentivize them to set the price at something that a buyer would actually find attractive. The seller needs the item to sell in order for them to receive any reward, and that reward is now much higher based on how much gold you can sell the item for. Scarcity, competition, and demand would dictate prices, which is true for any item in any economy, which makes finding a super good, super rare item you can sell for a high amount of gold feel so much better. The other big benefit that this has is that it will clear up the items that are listed at 0 gold. Right now, there is no way to compete for prices on anything, because any item that is fairly common will have someone that just wants to list it to get the reputation reward. This means that anyone who wants to sell won't know what the gold value is on any item they find, because they're competing with someone who's giving the item away for free. It also means that buyers don't know the value of whatever they're buying, because if they can find it for 0 gold, well, I guess it must be pretty common, right? The seller obviously doesn't care too much about the item, so why should I as a buyer? At this point, buyers start to lose interest in any item that isn't free, until they get to the point they can buy something super rare with a high amount of LP, which of course they have to grind to get to that point, which heavily prolongs the time when you can get any value out of the Merchants Guild system. And that brings me to my final critique of this video. Tying the ability to buy certain types of items to the ranking system is a tough thing to do, and I personally think that they need to slightly rework this to allow for purchasing sooner in the player's experience. Now this may also double dip into the first point I made, which is that the grind is just a bit too long. If they lessen the grind or provide other ways to earn reputation, then I think this problem may not be as big of a deal, but I personally think that they should spread out some of these rank rewards to make the lower ranks feel a bit more exciting. For example, at rank 3, you have the ability to buy specific unique items, and at rank 4, you have the ability to buy idols. I would switch them, so at rank 3 you buy idols, and at rank 4 you buy uniques. But on top of that, add on to rank 4 with the ability to buy uniques with 1 legendary potential. I think this would give players more of a reward at rank 4, because you're giving them the ability to buy items that they can legendary craft with, and that is their introduction into the higher quality trade economy. If that would be too powerful and cause some balance issues to just give the players the ability to buy legendary potential up front, then I think I would bring exalted weapons up front instead of uniques with LP. Make rank 2 idols, make rank 3 set items and uniques, and make rank 4 exalted items. That way you're giving players quicker access to the good rewards, because by the time they're hitting rank 4, they should be about to get into the monoliths, where they'll start to see a bunch of exalted weapons lying around anyway. This only incentivizes them to go to the Circle of Fortune and start buffing what they see on the floor. Now obviously, the updating of rank rewards should go hand in hand with adjusting the reputation grind, but I think right now what we're seeing is that the ability to purchase any meaningful items are locked behind a steep progression wall. And just from a player reward system point of view, there aren't many feel-good rewards given to the player up front to incentivize them putting in the time to get to the higher ranks. All the meaningful rewards are heavily loaded towards the back end of the ranks, which I think should be the case for the most part, but I think a good reward system will give a player breadcrumbs along the way in order to lead them to a better reward later on. And that's all my critiques. I think other players have said that the search function is a little janky and that the Circle of Fortune is just too powerful to make the Merchants Guild worth it, but I think if EHG focuses on these core issues, it'll help to make the other problems less prominent. The search function is serviceable. It's not amazing, but I think it'll be so much better once we stop seeing this huge load of 0 gold items clogging up everything. Also, I think it's just the nature of ARPGs with RNG items that search becomes a bit difficult. But what do you all think? Have you even tried the Merchant's Guild yet? If you have, what do you think about the system? What would you change or keep the same? Let me know in the comments. As always, I appreciate you all and your support. If you haven't done so yet, you can pick up your copy of Last Epoch through my Nexus GG link to support the channel at the same time. But most importantly, I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like if you liked it and subscribe for more content. I hope you enjoy your adventures in the economy of Eterra, and I can't wait to see what we talk about next.